Welcome to the Gibberpish Podcast.
Well, the internet's on fire, but we're here to talk gibberpish, aren't we, Dom?
Yep.
Seems
Come sit and listen to us talk bullshit while Twitter burns.
one of the largest, most revolutionary social media platforms of the entire history of the internet has just been purchased by a man by the name of Elon Musk. I believe the name is Elon Musk. You may people apparently have heard of him before. We've not heard of him here. But yeah, he has apparently decided to grab hold of.
I've also heard him called Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. He is South African. They do have some interesting pronunciations.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has decided to buy Twitter for $44 billion, with the leading estimates for the company being apparently $22 billion.
Yep. And he just recently tweeted 2 hours ago, Freedom Fridays, ...
Freedom Fridays from a man threatening to ban people who do not explicitly state that they are satire accounts after he allows people to become verified with brand new accounts for $8. There are no words, people. This actually prompted a discussion for us as to what we do in terms of, because Twitter people think it's going to just implode within 5 minutes, and that's entirely possible. But at the same time, I don't see it as being such a quick thing. I think if it is going to crumble, it'll take some time to implode. But we have a small presence on Twitter, just mostly to post random videos we find interesting or keep people updated on the process of new shows, and obviously to announce when new episodes come out. But in terms of an actual social media platform, it's been dead for a while. I feel there's no interaction between people anymore on that platform, and if there is interaction, it's screaming about politics.
Oh yeah, it's people using their platform to say that Donald Trump should come back and Elon Musk should do the right thing and bring Donald Trump back, and it's Elon Musk trying to be the troll that everyone didn't want to talk to in high school. You know that guy. No one wants to talk to him, but he's just kind of going, I signed up to 4 different, Twitter accounts and just type, dicks all over.
It's
just nothing else, just the word dicks all over.
What I think we all knew the writing was on the wall when he walked into the Twitter headquarters carrying a sink and saying, "Just bought Twitter, let that sink in." Oh no, you're a grown up who thinks like a child. What are you doing? He's the head of several massive companies.
Moron.
He wants people to go to Mars. I don't trust it anymore. I was up for going to Mars. I don't care if I die on the first flight there. But at the same time, now that I know he's running it, I'm like, oh shit. What have we all been deceived into hoping with this guy? He's insane. But yeah, we're looking at alternatives in terms of social media platforms. I see Mastodon has been trending for the last couple of days, which is annoying because it got me excited for new Mastodon albums that don't exist. I was hoping to get a bit of rock and roll in my life, and now just apparently there's an alternative to Twitter out there called Mastodon. We have there's Reddit. I don't think we have. I definitely don't have a Reddit account anymore. There's YouTube. We do have a YouTube platform. So yeah, we can post there, and they are actually opening up some of their slightly more social media features to smaller level content creators. For example, I got an email this week. Despite the fact I don't have the previously required 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I have unlocked community posts. So you can post there at lower levels now. So we can actually put discussion threads on our YouTube channel, but we'd have to maybe build up a little bit to get to that far. So yeah, YouTube's there as an option. The alternative is a Discord. We could build a Discord server for the community. I'm trying to get into that right now, but Discord is a weird, strange alien beast that takes a while to master, and it's not exactly user friendly unless you're already in the sphere of users of Discord. So if you're not used to using it, it's kind of a shit show. But yeah, I don't know about you, but I find the initial experience with Discord to be very unfriendly, Dom.
I was never a fan of Discord. I personally think that game-based chat services peaked at Xfire and never got better. Going to Discord, it was just various little platforms that I had to jump over just so I could talk to people on Discord or talk on the internet again. Because I don't like Messenger because that means, too close to Facebook.
Yeah.
I was
going to say, I feel like
Discord could be there.
Yeah, I think you're right with the Xfire being the peak of like gaming, like chat servers, just because it was literally just AOL Messenger, which is the peak of all conversations on the internet, and it was a version of that went over your video games. It was perfect. It did exactly what it needed to do.
Discord's trying to do that, but I think, in a way, Discord's kind of too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many features to Discord. But to be fair, it does what I need it to.
Yeah, and that's
I'm
just
not exactly going to complain about it.
it does exactly what you need to do with the basic version, but if you actually try to run the server and add on all these little mods and attachments or bots that run through the servers to get to like the really high level stuff, it's kind of insane at points. Like it's borderlines on computer programming at points. So I'm gonna see if it's possible to establish something that's easy to use for people, because I know we've got a lot of people from a variety of backgrounds that listen to the show, so you don't want to make something that's super like tech heavy and geeky and then just have it be inaccessible to people who might enjoy the podcast, want to be part of the community, but can't figure out what the hell to do. So, I mean, if you're out there and no alternative social media platforms, hit us up on Twitter while it's still there. You can do that at Gibberpish Podcast. No, just at Gibberpish. I was going to say at Gibberpish Podcast at gmail.com as well.
Yep.
But yeah, if you want to reach out to us.
As I found out when using Twitter recently, there is another Gibberpish podcast that use the same handle as us. So.
Oh shit! Okay.
You be careful.
I wonder. I wonder if they get yelled at for talking about Superman. Superman's not that important. Fuck off. Stop talking about this.
No, they're Gibberpish X.
Huh. Interesting.
And they're also from Scotland as well.
That's odd.
They talk about mental health at school. They do something worthwhile. We just talk about comics and farts.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's if you want to be like helping make the world a better place and stuff. Yeah, whatever. Or you could read comic books about people actually doing the same thing. So kind of 50-50 on that one. Yeah,
with superpowers. So.
Yeah, did they have superpowers? No, didn't think so. Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I'll send you a link to a video by a guy called Jay Aubrey, who has made a video explaining why, if you knew who Elon Musk really is, you shouldn't be surprised by what he's done with the Twitter platform. It's about 40 minutes, but it goes through the guy's entire life, so it's kind of impressive that he managed to condense all the bullshit down to just this. But yeah, Elon Musk's maybe the worst thing he did wasn't on SNL.
Was he on SNL as well?
Yeah.
I thought the peak of his shape was smoking weed with Joe Rogan.
Oh, I wish. He had a sketch. Obviously, he did the opening monologue. He does not do monologues well, funnily enough. As a guy who barely can hold a conversation with a stoner, it's kind of embarrassing to see him up there on a stage giving an opening monologue to an immediate audience of a couple hundred people, but then knowing that it's also being broadcast to millions across the US. Compare that to something like Dave Chappelle, who was on recently for the Saturday Night Live monologue, and it's like, okay, there's clearly a performance art to this that Elon just lacks. And yeah, it's I think one of his sketches was putting Wario through court, and it was just horrific to watch. SNL as a sketch show is kind of hit or miss at points, but his entire show was just miss after miss after miss. Speaking of misses, I believe
just hearing that he tried to put Wario on an SNL sketch just proves that he was like, yeah, let's do something weird and random.
Okay. I'll do something random and gamery for all my gamer fans.
Stop, Elon Musk. Yeah. I mean, I guarantee he didn't even get offered to be on SNL. He paid for it. He was just like, I'll give you $2 billion. Just let me on. They're like, fine.
It's like, shit, that does pay for the next 5 seasons. It's a weird one.
Yeah, that sets us up for the next several years, so we'll take.
But I say, speaking of the gamers, I believe this week we've received the official list of the Game Award nominees. The Game Awards are always a bit of a controversial pick throughout the year, but there's I feel like this year is a bit different. I've noticed there's like 4 nominees for most of the categories this year for the Game Awards. And while I don't disagree with them all as good games, for every category, I think for the big ones, actually, and for some reason, voting is taking place through Discord as well as a few other online sites. But they've put up a Discord server to help you vote, which
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just connected my stuff through a website and I got to nominate myself there. I think I linked it through my Twitter, funnily enough. If my internet holds together, I'll be able to get up a list of the nominees.
I can get you for Game of the Year. We have, starting from the top, Elden Ring, A Plague Tale Requiem, God of War Ragnarok, Xenoblade Chronicles Stray, and Horizon Forbidden West. Best Game Direction, which is weird that there's Game Direction and Best Game are just separate categories. I don't know what the technical definition for the director would be, but I mean, interesting choice. Again, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Immortality. Most anticipated, which is the most bullshit category I've ever heard of in my entire life. Literally, what's the most hyped thing possible? Starfield by Bethesda, Resident Evil 4, the remake, Hogwarts Legacy, Final Fantasy 16, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. For Best Community, which is an interesting choice. I like that that's there. Something that just, it's mostly for these longer term online games. I quite like that they've made something for it though. You have Fortnite, Destiny, Apex Legends, Final Fantasy 14, No Man's Sky. You then have a bunch of extra categories that break down basically each category of type of game. So like best first person shooter, best racing game, technical awards like best art direction, best score and music, audio design, best performance, obviously for your voice actors, games for impact, which I guess is, I don't actually know what the definition for the games of impact is, but I guess it'd be kind of social stuff.
Games for impact, games that show off. Like, they're not your just typical. Here's a guy. He's got a gun. He's going to kill the guys today. That kind of thing. Games that have a message to them. Games that show off different aspects of the community and shit like that. That's why, Life is Strange, and there's tons of those types of games now. That's a category specifically for those type of games.
Best ongoing game, best independent game, best mobile VR and AR games, innovation and accessibility. That's a good one. Best action game, different categories of different games. Best fighting game. I imagine that's quite controversial.
Yep, that's the one I wanted to talk about, because one of the nominees isn't even a fucking fighting, right? Sifu may have fighting in it. It is not a fighting game.
I think
a fighting game
know about Sifu.
Is a multiplayer.
I think I know about Sifu. I remember hearing, I think Super Eye Patch will talk about this in his gaming podcast, and he was talking about that this is like you start off as the same guy running into the same levels, and you have to basically fight your way to the top, and you've got like 60 odd tries. The
mechanic is that you can. I think the mechanic behind it is you start off as a child, and you're kind of weak, but you've got a lot of health.
Right.
But then as you get your ass kicked, you become older but stronger, but your health pool diminishes. So by the time, if you're getting your ass kicked a lot, by the end of the game, you are fairly old, no health, but you're incredibly strong.
Right, okay. Interesting choice. But like when we talk about fighting game, you're talking about a versus, like a 2-player side-scrolling beat-em-up, you know? Not necessarily beat-em-up, but like 2-player like fighting game like Mano a Mano. So King of Fighters, Multiverses, DNF Duel, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle R. I mean, just first of all, fucking JoJo's game. I don't like JoJo's. But the rest of these, like, was there no Capcom releases? No, nothing like that?
No, Capcom, their latest fighting game was genuinely a re-release compilation for PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. Fucking dog looked right at me and yawned.
Does he not know he contains magical yawning powers?
Even you saying the word knocked off. But Capcom haven't really released a new fighting game in a while. They're kind of putting all their money and effort into Street Fighter 6, which they've delayed until March or April next year, which I used to be the kind of person to grumble about delays, but now it just means that they're putting a bit more polish on it, so I'm fine with that. But getting back to Sifu, it's an action game.
Mhm.
It's not a fighting game because there's fighting in it. Doesn't make it a fighting game. Kratos in God of War Ragnarok uses his fists. Can God of War Ragnarok be put into another category for nomination because Kratos punches a couple of dragons?
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, I mean, for my money, Multiverses should take that accolade because it's genuinely the best fighting game that I've played this year.
Interestingly enough, it's also up for best multiplayer game, along with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah, as much as I like Multiverses, Shredder's Revenge is a fucking masterpiece. That game is superb.
Really? Okay. Give that. a-
It's fucking amazing. If you could kind of circling back to the whole Game of the Year nomination, it's no secret that I fucking love Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and the whole Xenoblade series. Putting it up against Elden Ring, in fact, putting it up against Elden Ring on its own isn't fair. Because Xenoblade, comparatively, is a niche game. Everybody and their fucking dog knows about Elden Ring.
Mhm. It's gonna be one of those situations where there'll be a lot of fan. I think actually with Elden Ring, I think it's been too far gone. It's been 10 months since most people played that game, or a lot of people will still be kind of coming back to it here and there. But a lot of the initial hype has been like from 8 months ago. I think in terms of the voters or people who actually cast votes on this one, it'll be a case of I think God of War might take it just based on it being so recent, very well made. It's a very good looking game, and then it coming out as being just kind of a big moment for God of War fans. I think they might be hyped up in time, just in time to vote, basically. Because it's the same thing with in the best adaptation category. You have Arcane, League of Legends, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, Cuphead Show, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and Uncharted. Now, first of all, how the fuck did Uncharted get on there?
Yeah, that's a good point. I understand Cuphead, because that's actually a good adaptation.
Yeah, Cuphead was good.
Cyberpunk Edgerunners, apparently, I've not watched all, but I've heard from my brother that it's really good.
Yeah.
And that generated hype for Cyberpunk again, and they updated the game, and now that game's getting really good numbers again.
Yeah. Cyberpunk Edgerunners.
The Uncharted film with Tom Holland apparently was a pile of shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Cyberpunk Edgerunners was good enough to bring back Cyberpunk 2077. I did hear a lot of things about Arcane League of Legends when it first came out, and it was one of those things where people in the anime community watched it and were like, wow, this is really fantastic animation. And people like the textures, people like the characters, the world building, and the way it's actually balancing the fact that it's from League of Legends, but you don't need to know anything about League to watch it. It's a good narrative story. The same way that Cyberpunk Edgerunners does. Cuphead does it as well, but it's more of a kind of cartoony show. There's less of a serious narrative going through it.
Yeah, Cuphead is basically a callback to those the old classic they called Merry Melodies, the old Looney Tunes Disney cartoons, where it's just here's the main character. The main character gets in a bit of fracas, and then
wacky
we'll see what
scripts
happens
will be
at the end of the
happening
episode.
this week. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like wacky shit's going to happen this week, and Cuphead and Mugman are going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So there's not really a through narrative.
Mm.
It still kind of harnesses the show and just kind of says, well, this is what they do in the game. We're not going to have them run and shoot, bullets at the fingers, but we're going to we're still going to make it as faithful to the show as we can.
I think as much as Arcane, I'm going to watch Arcane League of Legends at some point, probably this weekend, to get some kind of perspective on what the actual matchup is. But for me right now, Cyberpunk Edgerunners takes it in a win easy. That show, really ran through the anime community in a big way, to the point where we're still listening to the soundtrack. A lot of us. I mean, I found that Netflix, they have an anime YouTube channel where they post trailers and clips and stuff like that. They also posted the biggest song from the soundtrack, which is also in the soundtrack for the game, which is "I Really Want to Stay at Your House." We've actually put that in the show notes for 2 episodes back. And they took that, they made an AMV of it, like an anime music video, to the music that's awesome. And then in a total meme move, decided to post it, but a 1 hour version. So it's just the song looping 20 times, and then put it up on YouTube, because that's what anime fans do. And I'm like, that's fucking hilarious. When Netflix came into the anime game, everyone's like, oh, they'll never actually merge into the anime community properly. I'm like, no, they're just fucking like us. Or at least the person running the social media platforms is. They're just taking the piss. It's fucking great. So I think Cyberpunk Edge Runners wins that one. I think there'll be a loud outcry when it does happen, because something like Arcane League of Legends probably might deserve it more. But I'll see about that in terms of adaptation. But I could see Sonic the Hedgehog winning it. It depends how fast the fans can kind of gather together and just start dumping votes into this one. I don't see Cuphead taking it, and if Uncharted gets it, nah. That's how you know the fix is in.
Yeah.
Sony's paying for too much of the advertising. Because Sony's trying to make those video game movies work.
Yeah, if it's getting bad to the point where I know some proper PlayStation diehards and Uncharted diehards that went to see the film and came back with that was bad. It just if it didn't work, it felt kind of janky. Just Tom Holland wasn't really that good character in it, and it was just for a film that was as highly anticipated as Uncharted was to then just fall flat on its face and to have as big a fan base as that does to disappoint on the back of it. It was and then to see that get a adaptation of the year award from the Game Awards. Okay, Sony's just kind of saying we're going to pay this much in advertising, but on the back of that, you need to give Uncharted a nomination.
Yeah, we got studios.
I think Sonic the Hedgehog's going to take it.
Yeah, it's possible.
Sonic 2 was a brilliant film.
I think we'll see. But other than that, I mean, the rest of the awards are esports stuff. I'm not really that interested in esports.
Yeah, me neither.
Content Creator of the Year was interesting just because Carl Jacobs, a Minecraft YouTuber, Ludwig, who is less of a content creator. He does gaming stuff, but he's now such an elder statesman of video gaming content creation. He's more into that kind of side of things. Nebellion, don't know who that is. Nobru, don't know who that is. And then QT Cinderella, who I think is Ludwig's girlfriend. Can't be certain of that one. Need to double check, but I'm pretty sure that it's QT Cinderella that's his girlfriend. So that's interesting. And the fact that there's not like even one VTuber on there is interesting because VTubers had a big year for the last year. I don't recognize a lot of the people on this list. Same goes for
just when you were saying about Nebellion. Nebellion is a guy who basically confirms and correlates leaks, and just if there's gaming news, he was my kind of go-to before he decided, you know what, Twitter's kind of a cesspool. I'm bugging out for a couple of days. I
do recognize Nebellion because I saw the Mob Psycho 100 logo for his name. I was like, it's kind of interesting that somebody like that could have a Mob Psycho 100 logo. But then, I actually do remember him saying that he was actually going to quit Twitter and leave to be somewhere else. Here's an interesting part. Blair, known online as QT Cinderella, is an American Twitch streamer and YouTuber, known as the creator and co-host of the Streamy Awards. Interesting. Very, very.
What's the Streamy Award?
It's kind of like the YouTube version of the Emmys. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting that she's basically, online content creation royalty. So, alright, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I looked at that and I'm like, odd selection of people. I recognize Ludwig. He's pretty good. I like some of his stuff. He's very good at kind of talking about content creation, which I find quite interesting, what's going on in the community. Because I don't have time to pay attention to it. He just likes to summarize things in videos. I'm like, cool, sorry, I don't need to pay attention to all the fucking nonsense going on with you people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but Gamer of the Year or Content Creator of the Year, because that's what it was, technically, I think, was Gamer of the Year. Cause I remember Boogie won it at one point. Boogie 2988. And I'm like, interesting. Yeah.
Was that before he threatened someone with a gun?
Must have been before. I don't think they'd let you on after you threatened someone with a gun.
Because, pardon the pun, but he literally shot himself in the foot on that one.
Yeah.
He fucked that one out royally, because I remember before that, people were on his side because he was getting fat shamed or somebody by some.
He was the guy.
Fat shamed by somebody.
The guy he shot at was harassing him and was stalking him and was flew from out of state to be in his town to send him a photo of his house to say, "I'm outside, bitch. What are you gonna do about it?" And that's what kicked off the whole altercation that resulted in him firing a gun. So he was being stalked and harassed by somebody, and yeah, he decided to fire a gun within a couple 100 yards of a school. So yeah, he got fucked and shafted on that one, and it has.
Yeah.
I remember seeing an interview with him, and he was saying he's now really in the shit, financially. So he's trying to scrape together the cash to sort himself out, and obviously he's a large man. He cannot do traditional work, so it has to be online. He has to find ways of making money online now. And you're like, it's such a shame to see something like this happen to a guy who's been pretty influential in YouTube, like really one of the biggest names for a long, long time. But yeah, it's I definitely don't think you can get that after you get that award after you shoot a gun at someone. Or you'd like to hope so. Other gaming news actually. Have you seen this thing about Mick Gordon? The guy who made the soundtrack for Doom, and he's doing an absolute fucking riot right now with the guys over at id Software and Bethesda.
Yeah.
Over rights to songs and stuff.
Something to do with the fact that he did 5 hours worth of recording, and he was only paid for 2.5, but they used all 5 hours of the recording. And then when he, called them out on it, he was like, "Rick, shut up. Here's a 6-figure sum. Don't say anything about it. I'll get taken care of."
Yeah, and it never really was.
No.
There's a lot of stuff as well about the mastering of the soundtracks, like the way it's all supposed to come out in the final version, and you can see the final audios that come out of the tracks he's done, and then they hired someone to work with him as like an assistant, and you see the tracks the assistant made and the tracks he made, and it's like you can see audio waves, and obviously we're doing the podcast recording right now, and I'm looking at the audio waves as I was speaking, and I can tell when things are getting too loud and too quiet, so I can adjust things as they go. And when music gets put into a system like this, there should be like ups and downs. If you look at the tracks the other guy made, it's just solid blocks of noise. Like there's no ups and downs, there's no variations to give the hint as to when high notes and low notes are coming in. And it's like, it's a mess, but obviously it's all tagged under Mick Gordon's name. So he's like, my name's been kind of dragged through the mud a little bit because I wasn't actually given the time or the money or the resources necessary to make the Doom soundtrack work the way I thought it would. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff of back and forth, and now Bethesda and id Software are saying actually what he's saying isn't correct in any way, shape or form, and we've got files to prove it. What's going on? Why is this happening again? I mean, the last time we were on, it was the voice actress for what's it?
For Bayonetta.
For Bayonetta. There it is. Sorry, the name has totally escaped me today. Names are just really hard for me, to be honest. The Bayonetta voice actress, that whole shenanigans and shambles went on, and then we have this coming up again against one of the guys who's probably one of the most beloved sound or one of the most beloved music creators in gaming right now.
Yeah, and to have something like that happen, within a month of Helena Taylor basically lying through her teeth to try and get more money, it's a shitty thing. Like, if you're going to hire someone to do a job and then try and shortchange them on that job, like, what the fuck are you doing? And then to go a step further than that and say, "Oh yeah, like, we put your name to it because you said we couldn't." No, it's fucked.
Yeah. I don't know if this made it onto one of the last podcast recordings we did, but it's a shame to see that something we love and enjoy so much is now big enough to be grifted by people who just want to make money and who don't want to make something, worthwhile. Yeah. But that's gaming's fun. Remember that was the objective of gaming, was just to be a fun escape from reality, and now it's just kind of shit. There's one actual thing I want to talk about from the Game Awards. I forgot about this. Best narrative, getting a nomination, or Elden Ring getting a nomination for best narrative. I don't know what they're talking about here. Maybe that's just best storytelling, because in terms of world building and storytelling, Elden Ring is just another classic FromSoft game with George R.R. Martin wedged right in the middle of it. So that's kind of great. But in terms of like the actual storytelling of the game, there's kind of not a lot there. You get to kind of dig for the story.
It's a Dark Souls type game where there's plenty of story to find, but you have to spend a long time finding documents and reading through it and getting balls deep in the lore to actually get anything out of it.
Yeah, there's a reason guys like VatiVidya exist in the Dark Souls community. It's because we need somebody like that to piece together the broad storytelling that's involved. And when the storytelling is all laid out in front of you, it's fantastic, it's great, it's epic, and weirdly sad and personal at the same time. But in terms of what you're actually presented with, in terms of a single narrative throughout a gameplay, it's not really what I'd say is one of the best stories of the year. I don't know. I mean, if you want to nominate Stray, I get it. That's fine. Go for it again. Nominate Stray for everything. Why not? Just because, cute cat game. But yeah, that's getting way too many nominations, actually. I do like Stray. I've enjoyed playing it. And I've still not finished it, but I've enjoyed my time with it. But the idea that is getting nominations for the absolute game of the year, I'm a bit off on that one as well, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, for me, I'd love Xenoblade 3 to win, but when it's going up against God of War and Stray and
Horizon
Elden Ring,
Forbidden West. Yeah.
Aye, Horizon Forbidden West. It's kind of unfair. It's genuinely unfair. As much as I'd love to say it's just like kind of, hey, fuck you. I think Xenoblade's a shoo-in, I think, for soundtrack of the year, because, well, God of War has good music. I don't really think the music stand out. Xenoblade and games like that have that kind of dynamic soundtrack. So when you're hitting big damage, the music changes. When you're kind of getting the shit kicked out of you, the music changes. The game is kind of built around it.
Yeah.
I think it deserves more of a shout out than something like Elden Ring, where it's all just operatic, good music, but just kind of that heavy operatic sound.
I am interested in best art direction. Scorn's on the list. Don't know if you've seen any footage from Scorn, but it's basically H.R. Geiger artwork in space.
I haven't played it. I watched my brother play it, and I just remember thinking, this doesn't look fun. You have some kind of weird penis gun that you shove into openings.
Yeah, it's H.R. Geiger.
If you know H.R. Geiger, the phrase penis gun isn't going to be too out there for you, but you just kind of go around with this dick gun, and then occasionally you can stick your hand into a crevice and then connect your veins to it or something. I was like, this game would be so much better if they removed the combat from it and just made it a pure puzzle game.
Yeah.
It didn't look fun, and it didn't look great either.
I think in terms of its art direction, in terms of what they actually made and what they put the stuff, the creation and the idea of what's going on in the world is awesome. I think in terms of how they represented that with all the really dark colours, it didn't quite translate well. But in terms of following a H.R. Geiger sketch, it's impressively accurate.
Yeah, I mean the design of it is meant. It does what it's meant to be. It's meant to be Geiger inspired, and it definitely looks like that. For me, the game design doesn't really fit it well. It doesn't translate well to 3D.
All right, so it's worth maybe a look, but maybe not buying. Really,
Yeah, if you have Game Pass, check it out. But if not, I'd say you could give it a miss.
Yeah, it's weird, but I'm looking through articles and stuff on the different nominees and stuff like that, and I don't see too much that stands out for me. I mean, there's the best community support. Destiny 2 might be it in the past, but I don't know if Destiny 2 is really around as a community anymore. Actually, even Forbes have called it Saifu is why is that doing on the best fighting game list, but it's not really. It's PvE, not PvP.
Yeah.
And they hate most anticipated, which is just what's the most well marketed game at this point, and gaming hype culture is just fucking toxic at this point. Yeah, I think we could. Yeah, I just the Game Awards every year just come back around, and you're like, I don't know why we're doing this. Are we doing it so we feel like the big boys now? I feel like gaming has always had that kind of little brother feel to it, where it's always trying to stand up and say, no, I'm just as important and relevant as TV shows and movies, and I get my own award show that's just as good as yours. And I'm like, who gives a shit? Is this really what we're doing with our time with the Game Awards? There's a few in there that you kind of want to see succeed and be recognised for what they've achieved this year, but at the same time, it's a weird thing that the community just decided we need an award show. Or actually, I don't think community decided at all. I think advertisers definitely had a big say in what makes it. And I think, again, that's why you'll see stuff like Uncharted make it into the best adaptation list.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there by saying we just wanted to kind of be noticed. It's kind of, oh yeah, we deserve our award show, but then at the time or currently, everyone's just kind of saying, well, no one else wants award shows. People are turning away from the Oscars and whatever other awards there are, and just things like that. And the Game Awards were like, well, fuck it, we established this. We're going to keep it going for no reason, if not just to piss off gamers.
Yeah. So I guess we move on to some actually good news. There's a new Skindred album in the works somewhere. It's going to take a while to get there. They're giving a new single out called "Give Me That Boom." I really dig it. It feels like a lot like kind of classic Skindred, and it's obviously got all the tricks and stuff that they've learned over the last couple of years of recording. Sounds fantastic, and the video for it's amazing. I don't know if you actually sat down and watched the YouTube video or the music video for it, but it's directed by a guy called Steve Clark. And if you watch the amount of editing that goes into like putting together all these cuts, there's a sequence where they walk across the room, but it's not like they all walk across as a group. It's they all walk across the same area, and the cut just goes from like person A, B, C, and it rotates through like the entire band about 6 times in the time it takes them to cross a room, and it looks phenomenal. Like they're all just kind of weirdly in sync with each other. To the point where I'm like, I don't know how he did that. It must have taken like 10 or 15 shots on each person to get it all to sync up that way. It's really impressive. It's directed by a guy called Steve Clark. I don't know what he's really done, but I'm gonna check out more of his stuff if that's anything to go by. But there's a lot of stuff where it's like it takes down like the drum set. Like the drum set will disappear one bit at a time, but the drummer looks like he's constantly playing. On the parts that are still there, and you're like, that's really impressive to sync it a lot with the music as well. But yeah, I'm wholly looking forward to it when a new album drops next August, which is a bit disappointing. I mean, keeping the hype alive for how long it'll be? 7-8 months at this point, if it releases in early August. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. But I suppose if they keep like dropping little singles in that here and there. Have you seen Skindred live? You seen Skindred live?
Twice.
Okay, good. I would say if not, we're definitely crossing that one off the list next time we're in
Scotland. I went to see. There was a gig for Skindred, or I think they played. I might have seen them at Download actually. It was at Download. I went to see them, and then they played the Jägermeister tour, where Jägermeister sponsored it and basically slashed the hell out of the ticket prices, so it was $5 to get in. I remember I bought I think about 30 quid's worth of tickets and just hand them out to people. It's like, dude, we're going. Like, it's a Skindred show for $5.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, if next time they're in town, definitely buying tickets.
Oh, and that was the other cool thing about that tour. With your £5 entry, you were basically paying $2.50 for the show, and the other $2.50 when you arrived. A Jägermeister-clad bartender, be they male or female, handed you a shot of Jägermeister. And I still have the Jägermeister shot glass sitting downstairs.
Well, kind of fucking idiot for paying for mine now.
No, it's not like a glass one, it's a plastic one. It's quite a tall one as well. But yeah, that was probably their best gig, but as with every gig round about that era, because it was about 2015, 2016 I went to see them. Some idiot started hardcore pitting during one of the heavier bands. Dude, stop it.
Yeah, go home. You're not welcome.
Yeah. Although I didn't have that problem, segue, at Clutch last Friday. A week today.
Oh,
a week yesterday. A week previously. Fucking hell long. Like how to speak, you prick.
A week ago.
A week ago, using the proper language. I got kind of ambushed by my older brothers. It's my birthday in a week, or whenever this came out. My birthday's either about to happen or already has happened. So my brother's just kind of said, right, we couldn't think what to get you. That Clutch were coming to town. We bought you tickets for that. So I was like, okay, fucking brilliant. Since Left 4 Dead 2 came out in the early 2000s, I've been fucking waiting to see this band. So finding out that I had tickets for it, I've been waiting since about 2009 to see this band. So I went to the gig, and it was fucking phenomenal. Although it was at the O2 Academy, I sat at the balcony for the first two bands.
Mhm.
One of them was really good, a band called Green Lung. They're kind of stoner rock. Really, really loved that band. The lead singer looked like Charlie Day. I think from South London. Really good band. I would urge you to check them out.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of Muse, I would urge you to check out the other support band. Is a band called Tiger Cub. Yeah, and they were all right, but it's just they did sound a bit musy, and I'm not a fan of Muse at all.
Yeah, Muse have a sound, and if you're not up for it, it just doesn't really sit well.
Yeah, and they both played quite short sets. I think the Tiger Cub had half an hour. Green Lung had 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then that because they were on till about 8:30. Then from 8:30 till about 11, it was just Clutch. Clutch played a hell of a long set, and it was fucking brilliant.
Did they make it to the UK a lot, or is it?
Well, I genuinely think this might be the first time they've done a UK tour in a while since I found out about them.
Might be that they're just like, okay, we know it's been a while. Here's the show.
A very, very American band. So it's probably not easy to get to the UK to tour every time they get a new record out.
At least you got a good gig out of it. I mean, there's nothing worse than going to be disappointed. I don't think I've actually been disappointed by a gig yet. I'm very selective about what I go see, but yeah, I normally go see bands that have got a couple tours under their belt. And obviously by the time you get to playing O2 arenas and O2, like the Academy, the Hydro and stuff like that, you're pretty well tested by the time you get there.
Yeah, the only band I've been disappointed to see live was Korn. Because Jonathan Davis just didn't want to be there. It was like one song, it's like, here's the next song, like, here's Freaking Unleash. Here's Make Me Bad. Right, fuck you, we're Korn. See you later. Did no talking to the crowd, no crowd work, and it was just literally they sang the last song and it was like, goodbye motherfuckers, drop the mic. Or like if I remember right, they didn't even Jonathan Davis didn't even connect the mic up again, or drop the mic, he just kinda connected it back up and fucked off. I was like, okay. Good set, but it was a quick one.
Good songs, but wow. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Was that in Glasgow? Or was that like Scotland? Or was that like...
That was a Download in 2009.
Right.
See, that's why I'm quite glad that I went to Download, because I can say, I can say I've seen Def Leppard, seen Motley Crue, I've seen Trivium, Devil Driver, I've even seen Five Finger Death Punch, who were they were good, but I remember they were throwing sort of picks, and I almost caught one, but the guy behind me hit me with his elbow and then caught the pick because he seen me grab him. I was like, all right, I was going for that. Now I have a fucking welt on the back of my head.
Cheers, buddy, dickhead. Actually, if you want to talk about Download, the new list was announced for their 2023 show, which is in 201 days, as the website informs you. Metallica are playing at 2 lineups at the festival, with unique play sets for both, which is impressive, but I guess like you've got the back catalogue for it. Then you've got Bring Me the Horizon. Not a big fan of them. A few decent songs, but yeah. Slipknot. This is the 20th anniversary of Download, so yeah, Slipknot definitely belong on that list, and especially with the new album being really good. I mean, I think we talked about the new Slipknot album. I think with the exception of Adderall, good album. Although Adderall has grown on me a little bit.
I tried listening to Adderall again, and it's still not a good song. It just doesn't fit in with the rest of the record. I think Slipknot to me have always been a very heavy band, and to hear a song like that on a Slipknot record that takes it that slow, is like, nah, this is a Stone Sour song at best.
Yeah, it doesn't quite fit in, although to be fair, they've increased the number of like slow songs. There's always one in the album since, I'd say, number 4. I mean, Sulphur probably would be the start of the kind of slower songs, but even then that was kind of like compared to Adderall and stuff that's in the newer stuff, like, yeah, that's not really the same thing. There's also Architects, Disturbed, Placebo coming back. I wouldn't mind seeing Placebo. Evanescence.
I'd go and see Architects. Architects are alright, but Evanescence, can we just leave them in the early 2000s where they belong?
Evanescence, I kind of want to see it just for the train wreck. I don't imagine it's going to go well. Ghost are making an appearance. That is worth watching.
Yeah.
Parkway Drive. Holy shit. Speaking of Leave It in the 2000s, Alex is on fire as well. Pendulum are coming back. Back in the day, Pendulum.
I mean, I've seen Pendulum live as well, and they put on a fucking show. I think the only reason Pendulum got cut short is because I wanted to go and see Multicrew. But Pendulum put on a fucker of a show. Like, their setup will actually leave you with permanent blindness. Use that many lights.
Within Temptation, they've done quite a few downloads, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've not played Donington in nearly 8 years, so welcome them back, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also in the list, Behemoth, Bloodywood. I see they're in there. There's only like 60 bands announced. There's definitely got to be more. But there was also 3 Days Grace are on the list. Speaking of leaving stuff back in the day, Seether are on the list. Interesting. I quite like Seether. But that's one of the things I notice whenever these lists come out, is that there's a lot of people on here I don't recognise. So the kids must be putting out music at a hell of a pace, because I don't recognise the majority of these bands. What the fuck is Crash Face, Crawlers, Dead Sarah? There's one called Jasmine Bean.
Enough.
That's it. I'm just saving the list. I'm going to go through the entire Download Donington list in the next 200 days and bring back reviews of each and every one.
Yeah. I get that as well, because even when there's gigs that I've looked at and I was like, I'll go and see them, it's like, I don't know who the fuck these are. It was the same with Clutch. I was like, okay, obviously I know who Clutch are. Who the fuck are Tiger Cub? Who the fuck are Greenlung? And then I was looking through other gigs that I was thinking about going to. It's like, okay, Lamb of God, but who the could they turn with?
Yeah, that's good though, because I mean, at least it worked out with Clutch, because you've walked away with one good band and a band that you might recommend to your friend who likes Muse.
Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend Tiger Cub because they're not a bad band.
Mm.
You don't like. It's not. They're not as bad as that band that I seen in Download that tried to get everyone to do the Slipknot Zero bullshit test. It was, yeah, you're not doing that. You're some weird screamo band from Wales. Whatever you're going to shout about isn't going to work. But no, they played really well. The lead singer looked like the guy from Stranger Things. You know, the one that's always eating the Wotsits in the arcade with the long sort of brown hair?
Are we talking like the... I'm blanking on this one.
I can't remember the guy's name, but he's basically trying to... He makes a deal with Mike so he can get Nancy's phone number, and he helps him. He gives him some kind of help.
Drawing a blank here, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, well, he looked like that guy. That's the only thing I can genuinely say.
Talk about Steve Harrington.
Yeah. No, not Steve Harrington. Doesn't look like Steve Harrington. Yeah. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Genuinely doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always a good thing about going to see a gig. The one thing that fucking bugged me to no end about the gig was when I was up in the seating area, you know, it was perfectly fine, no issues whatsoever. When I went down to standing, because I thought, well, I don't really want to stand, I don't really want to sit for Clutch. And, you know, the O2 Academy are quite stingy about if you're in the seating area, you can't just fucking walk into the standing area. I did. No one stopped me. It was pretty cool. Like it didn't even, the security guard didn't even say, oh, can I see your ticket? I just kind of walked straight through.
If you walk like you belong, you get through.
Yeah. But there was a couple of guys next to me who spilled, I think, maybe 2 whole pints worth of beer over me and the people in front of me, because they were just sitting dancing away, like head banging away with beer in their hand.
Yeah, that's like, kind of a dickhead move.
The minute I got, like, as soon as the gig finished, I was like wiping myself down because I just had beer all over my hair and like all of my beard and just covered my right arm. But that wasn't even the worst thing. There was a guy standing next to me who just, in the middle of one of Clutch's, the middle of Clutch's set, got hit in the head with a pint glass.
Shit.
And because I just heard the guy going, holy shit, and he ducked down. Like, some guy up near the bar, because you've been at the O2 Academy before, right?
Yeah, that's where Arch Enemy were.
Yeah, so there's the kind of bar, then there's steps down in the sort of main pit area near the stage. Some guy up at the bar just lobbed his pint and sconed this guy right on the head next to me. I kind of got covered in yet more beer. Motherfucker.
What fuck?
Like, if you're going to go,
Like spilling
gonna
beer,
go to a
dick
gig-
move. But like throwing a beer glass across a place like that, fucking cunt move.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna take a beer with you, don't take it into the pit.
Yeah.
And if you feel like throwing something, make sure it's something that's not going to cause someone severe damage if it hits them in the head.
Yeah. Like just stand off to the side, enjoy it. Don't just fucking throw don't start like just full on dancing. Just stand in the corner, bob your head a little, enjoy your beer, enjoy the show. Don't be a fucking dick.
Yeah, absolutely. That is just gig 101. Don't be a dick to anybody. Aye. Clutch only really they're obviously they're a heavy metal band, but they don't they're not really a pit band.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of people kind of, head banging, jiving, like getting carried away with the music. Really, really good gig. One that I'm glad has been crossed off the list. Next on the list is Motley Crue and Def Leppard at Hampden. So it'll be my first time going to a gig there. Guaranteed tickets are going to be expensive.
I absolutely go for that one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
My next gig is in a month, and it is Bad Wolves in Glasgow. Going to the Cat House for the first time. So yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Dude, the Cat House. I have a kind of love-hate relationship with the Cat House. I love the Cat House for gigs, but if you ask me to go to the Cat House just for a drink, you will drag me kicking and screaming.
I'm trying to think who else they're with, because somebody asked me who are Bad Wolves playing with, and I'm like, I have no idea. It's in a month.
See, I've heard Bad Wolves before, but wasn't really a massive fan. They just kind of sounded like Five Finger Death Punch light.
They're adjacent. I mean, the fact that Tommy Vex was able to jump over and cover Ivan Moody's lyrics when Ivan Moody went to hospital that one time. He went to rehab for a mental breakdown during the middle of a performance, basically. But it only shows as Bad Wolves, and doors open at 7, and it's like 20 quid a ticket, so it's worth it.
Yeah, not bad.
They've got a new vocalist in though, and yeah, he's actually really good. Once you get over the fact that he's not Tommy Vex, you're like, okay, it's not so bad. But I can't see whoever else is playing with them, and it just shows as Bad Wolves on like 5 or 6 different sites. But yeah. I can't wait to see it. I'll let you know how it goes, because it could be good. It could be great, actually, depending on how the performance goes. But actually, Scottish gig crowd will be well up for it.
Yeah.
But
so even at a shit gig, the crowd can make it a good gig.
Yeah.
So I remember going to see Devin Townsend at the Garage, which Garage is probably my least favourite venue in Glasgow.
Yeah, that's where I saw Devil Driver. It's way too small. Like, what are we doing here? The pit actually includes several bricks from the wall. That's how fucking tight it is.
Aye, and the first band that they had on it was a local band, but they were, I don't know if it was nerves or what have you, maybe they just hadn't played live that often, but they were just eating all kinds of ass. they were not doing well whatsoever. But the crowd kind of, was patient. The crowd got them into it, so they managed to salvage it somewhat. But yeah, a good crowd can make a gig, even if the band isn't that great. In the interest of continuing the show along,
did you not hear a whisper? I don't know how to segue this one.
Yeah. I'm going to leave that, and we're going to leave in all this dead air while we talk random bollocks.
Macaroni.
Just thinking about it, one game that I'm surprised never got nominated in any category, or maybe it did and I just didn't notice, was Deathloop. That was quite a fun game. It's just that I got into it, and then the quote unquote loop of the game got boring quite often. It got boring quite quickly. Because the whole point of the game is you start off as this guy, Colt. You can't remember anything. You've just been thrown into this world where you last a full day and like 4 cycles of the day. Then the day repeats itself, and you've basically got to figure out a whole bunch of shit in this one day while avoiding a girl called Juliana who has some tie to Colt, and she's basically trying to kill you throughout the whole game. But if you kill her, you get cool powers and shit. You get cool guns. But if you can avoid her, you can progress through the story and figure out like the whole story behind this world that's stuck in time. And it's a really cool game. It's kind of roguelike in the sense that you only start off with a certain gun. It's not a powerful gun, but if you continue with that gun, you can get more important abilities and better weapons and things like that.
Yeah, and you're looping
But-
back through the same kind of material, or same kind of content again and again and again to see how it's changed
Yeah.
each time.
Yeah, and you can infuse weapon. If you get a good gun, you can infuse it with this thing called residuum, which means you carry it over in between loops. And by all means, it's not a bad game. I actually really, really enjoy it for the first. I think I spent about 15, 16 hours on it for the first 8 hours of that game. I was like, holy shit, this is pretty good. But when you realise that you're doing the exact same thing over and over again, it gets quite boring.
I think that was similar to the view I heard of the game from a few other people, where it was like, it's good. I really enjoy this. This mechanic's cool. This is fun. This is like, I think Juliana, you said, like that was apparently a very like hard boss, effectively.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's hunting you down is an interesting twist rather than, you going to her.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think it was once the kind of veil dropped on the mechanic of looping back and forwards again and again and again, it just kind of, a lot of people just said, it didn't quite pay off for me. But yeah, a lot of people enjoyed playing the game and enjoyed a lot of like what was there, but at the same time, it didn't quite seal the deal for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's my problem with it. But it also came along at the time where I was playing that before just to kind of, you know what it's like when you've got Game Pass, you think, I'll try this game out and see how it plays. But it was basically just this was the game that I was playing until Bayonetta came out. And now that I'm playing Bayonetta, I'm like, okay, let's go full steam ahead with Bayonetta 3, because it's a game that I've been waiting for quite a while, and Deathloop can just kind of get put on the back burner until I decide to go back to it.
Maybe that's the point. I mean, if it doesn't have the staying power to distract you from another game, is it kind of worth saying, possible game of the year, indie game of the year, or action game, whatever? Is it really the best if you immediately drop it, or we're just kind of using it as a placeholder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. Then again, Bayonetta is a game that I've been waiting for. When did Bayonetta 2 come out? Bayonetta 2 came out on the Wii U, not too far after it launched. So it's been a while. Good few years. And don't get me wrong, Bayonetta 3 is a pretty damn good game. There's only one thing that I would really say that makes it slightly lesser than other titles, and that's nothing to do with Bayonetta. The combat in Bayonetta 3 and what they've done with the character in Bayonetta 3 is really, really good. It's one of the additional characters who, while she plays quite well, her combat style is very fun. Her character is just a pain in the ass. Yeah. I would describe it as Scrappy Doo-like.
Oh no. Never a good description for anything.
It's bad. She's just, Bayonetta is described as this kind of, this cool, calm and collected person that's just, no matter what the situation, Bayonetta will stay. She'll be the cool hand in the hot situation. And Viola, who's the young witch in training, who you play as, she's got this magic. She's got a sword that's enchanted with her sort of pack demon that she can summon. She's described as a hothead, and she's wanting to do things on her own. She's wanting to prove herself.
I was about to say she's going to prove herself to
fucking game.
I was going to say she's about to prove herself to everyone that thought she couldn't do the job, and you're, oh no.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's every argument for the next 5 hours is going to be started by her. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst part is, her combat style is really fun. See, when you get used to it, it takes a while, because when you play as Bayonetta, you've got so many different combat options. You've got 3 different sets of guns that you can use. You've got about 4 or 5 different unique weapons, all have their own unique move set with them, and they can summon unique demons using that skill set. And then you go to Viola, and she's got 1 demon and not a lot of options with her 1 weapon. So maybe as the game progresses, she gets some more stuff, but as it stands, she's just kind of, all I got is a sword and some darts. Well, I've just went from a walking arsenal in Bayonetta to a woman with a sword, a magic cat, and some exploding darts.
Oh, by the way, Bayonetta 2, 2014. So 8 years.
8 years, fucking hell, yeah. It's been a while.
And another graveyard growing Dom's beard. It's another layer of just grey seeps in.
Yeah.
I bumped into somebody I hadn't seen for ages at work, because they work in a different department, and they're like, your beard's gotten greyer. And I'm like, fuck you.
It's called old age. Catches us all.
Yeah. Speaking of old age, and this is something I found quite interesting with the last couple of months, I think we've talked a bit before about Quentin Tarantino's podcast, the movie archive podcast. which he runs with Roger Avery and Roger Avery's daughter, Gala, who's a very good addition to like their dynamic, because they would just go at each other non-stop about little things in movies for ages. And if you listen to Quentin Tarantino talk about film, it goes from 0 to 100 really fast. And he has been working on that through the course of his podcast. And it turns out he was writing a book as well at the same time, Cinema Speculation. And he's been around doing the book tour, which is now like half normal media, half like radio shows, half interviews, and then like another half is just other people's podcasts, which is always fun because it just means that more people just kind of prod Quentin Tarantino and just have him vomit out more information about films. So you learn a lot.
Yeah.
But I've started listening to the audiobook for Cinema Speculation. It's interesting. He's saying a lot of stuff that I've heard him say before in interviews. But like if you didn't go out of your way to find those interviews with like Channel 4 back in the day when he was promoting like I think it was for a lot of the stuff, a lot of his good interviews come from Inglourious Bastards and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But like you really want to hear him talk about like stuff like Django Unchained. And he's been talking a lot about like different podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. But his opening chapter, he does the opening chapter for his book, which is good. But then he switches over to somebody else who does the kind of narration for him. But his opening chapter, I think he explained it, he says, I've always made films with the intent of making it feel as energetic. You should, as an audience member, be as energetic as the audience for a Jim Brown blaxploitation movie in the 1970s. And I'm like, that does make sense. I do want to jump up and cheer every time somebody gets their comeuppance in a Quentin Tarantino movie. You know, I do feel very energetic watching it. Like, you get really kind of hyped up by what he shows you. It's kind of impressive. And I'm like, he is actually going for it. But he's been talking a lot because obviously he said he has 10 good films in him, and once he's done 10, he's going to retire. But he said I think he said something about like films for streaming platforms don't count. And obviously he's done TV work, and he's getting ready to make a TV show, which I think is going to be for a streaming platform, and it's going to be like 8 episodes or something like that. But there's a lot of speculation out there for, you know, what his next project's going to be, because obviously the last film that he wants to make is coming up, and it's like, it's interesting to see he's shifted into this kind of analytical role, or just kind of like his guru stage of being a film critic almost, or being like part of the film community. It's an interesting shift from being, you know, this weird eccentric filmmaker to just kind of being the old wise man, which is it's a fun transition. He's definitely worth it while listening to. But yeah, he's interesting. I'll give him that.
Quentin Tarantino, he went through a whole load of shit to get, or after Django Unchained came out, and then every other film that he put out afterward was just kind of held to that measuring stick, saying, "Oh well, how racist is it going to be? How bad is it going to be?" It's going to be a Quentin Tarantino film. It's not. It's going to be different. Like, just let the film come out.
Yeah.
Then he kind of shot himself in the foot long after. Well, I'll finish the point before I get into that. You got to imagine going through all that to get one film put out, and then he turn around and say, "Oh, guess what? I'm going to do another film." You got to imagine that's got to be fucking exhausting. To try and like be backflipping through so much red tape.
Yeah, and to put your whole effort into making these movies.
Absolutely. He kind of shot himself in the foot by saying, "Oh, the reason why I can't get my films financed anymore is because Harvey Weinstein doesn't run Miramax anymore." I'm like, you shouldn't have said that. Really shouldn't have said that.
Oh boy, like we're all thinking it, but you should never say it.
Hey, don't say it out loud. What's wrong with you?
I can't trust my old perverted boss to give me money anymore. He's in jail for sexually assaulting dozens of women. Man, when's he coming back? Shut up, Quentin.
Oh man, I wish Harvey would come back. I haven't made a film and he's like, dude, shut up. Stop talking.
But he's one of the few people I'd say right now, in terms of like a director that I'm going out my way to see, for his whatever films or whatever he's going to make. I need to hunt down, I didn't know he did this, but apparently he did 2 episodes of either like Law and Order, or he did some like procedural cop show. He did 2 episodes that he wrote and directed himself. I'm like, I'd love to see him take on procedural cop shows. Although I do want to give him some shit, actually. He's been covering different films, and he was working with Eli Roth for the podcast. Eli Roth is the first kind of guest outside the main cast and crew for the show that they're doing. And they started talking about Giallo films, which are Italian kind of... it's kind of like a crime movie, but it's closer to a slasher film. It's going to sound really bad. It's going to sound really wrong, and it's definitely the wrong way to contextualize an entire 80s and 90s genre of Italian filmmaking. But the films are essentially a version of, a film version of a game of Among Us. In that there's an unknown killer. Yeah, there's an unknown killer in amongst a small group of characters, and they go around bopping off every other character member until it comes down to the hero and the killer. So it's kind of like a slasher film in a certain sense. Kind of hard to define, but since they started discussing Giallo films, I've heard the term Giallo on at least 4 different movie-themed podcasts or shows that I watch and listen to. So that's the influence this podcast already has, and it's at episode 20. Impressive work that's been done by those guys, but at the same time, I'm fed up of hearing about Giallo filmmaking. It's it's low budget kind of slasher horror Italian kind of rip-off movies from the 80s, and it sounds fascinating. But at the same time, it's like everyone learned a new word at the same time, and it showed up everywhere at the same time. And I was like, why is everyone spouting this term that I've never heard of before, and apparently has been around forever, but is now just popping back in the lexicon?
What you've just said is exactly the reason why I stopped listening to the Dead Meat podcast. Because before they started doing targeted episodes, where it's just like, we're going to talk about this film this time, this film at that time, they started talking a bit more generally about horror films. They used the phrase Argento, as in Dario Argento and his sort of horror films, so often. I was like, okay, this is going to get out there. And then even on Twitter, because, whatever you look up, Twitter finds us, oh, you're interested in that, I'm just going to flood your feed with that. And they're talking about, everybody was talking about fucking Argento films. Like, oh, films peaked at Argento and never got better. Stop using that word, you fucked. You just literally heard about it once and then spouted it off without knowing what it means. Oh. It was like if you've got younger sort of siblings or you've got nieces and nephews, when they hear a word and just repeat it constantly. Like, when my niece was about 3 years old, or when she was about 5 or 6 years old, she heard the word fart and repeated it constantly because she thought it was funny.
She's not wrong.
It is funny, but at the same time, don't just repeat things because they make you giggle or because they make you sound smart.
Well, it seems like things have come full circle. As we'll come to talking about the fact that we may only make fart jokes to actually making fart jokes towards the end of the podcast. We're going to cut things a little bit short here in this episode. It's probably going to come through. I'm hoping to catch most of this in the edit, but there has been technical issues with the entire night of recording. I'm a robot voice, Dom's a robot voice, there was a dog in the background at some point. It's all getting a bit messy, so we're going to kind of cut the episode off here. I'm going to give you a quick elevator pitch before we leave. But I just wanted to say...
I mean, if we're still recording remotely, there's always going to be a dog in the background.
Yeah. We'll try and get things... we'll get another episode out. I think that's the way we make things up to people, is to get another episode broadcast out. Maybe as soon as possible once we've finished this one. But for now, I've got the elevator pitch. I was going to basically return us to a YouTube channel that would previously covered Totally Not Mark. We covered Totally Not Mark because Toei Animation, the people that make Dragon Ball Z, decided to smite him in public because he makes reviews of Dragon Ball Z, and Japanese companies have a very interesting interpretation of what fair use law means. But we covered that originally, and after massive public outcry, his channel was restored to him. It took getting half of YouTube involved, and eventually they managed to get YouTube, Toei Animation, and Totally Not Mark at the same kind of conference call, sort things out, and he got his channel back, which is fantastic. But he continues his review work, which is good because kind of nice to see that he kept going with it, because there was a point where he was considering quitting YouTube, which would be a massive loss. And I wanted to bring up his review. It's like an hour and 15 minutes of Dragon Ball GT, which is actually, it seems like a large investment, but let me pitch it to you this way. You can either watch his hour and 15 minutes review, which is like a good recap and review of what happens during the show, or you can sit down and watch Dragon Ball GT. Which do you prefer? Yeah, the review. So, he has decided to sit down and do a nice big review. He's quite fair, actually, with it. I'll give him this. Most people would just turn it into like a dunk competition on the worst episodes. But where he found things he enjoyed, he brought it up, and where he found things he really despised, he obliterated it. So, I'm going to post the link to his review of Dragon Ball GT, which is, I'll put that in our group chat, and you can find this in the show notes for the episode, as well as on social media, wherever that shows up. Oh, for fuck's sake. It's put the wrong thing in. I apparently pasted the wrong thing. Brilliant.
Yeah, you just pasted in the word cutie Cinderella.
Yeah, I took her name from the YouTube for the thing earlier to just try and look at her and try and find out who she was via Google.
I like that the thumbnail for this video just says, "Oh God."
It's the appropriate view. Actually, funnily enough, he's one of the few people I can find that actually like Super Saiyan 4 design. So yeah, he's an interesting fellow.
There's a lot of people, especially on social medias and things like that say that Super Saiyan 4 looks cooler than Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue, and I kind of can see where they're coming from. But to me, Super Saiyan 4 just looks like over-designed crap.
Well, that's the thing is they're comparing it to what we
eyes.
have now, which is fair. But at the same time, when we had just Dragon Ball Z and then straight to GT, there was nothing like Super Saiyan God to compare it to, and it just looked like over-designed crap that didn't make sense in the context of the Saiyans up to that point. So, yeah.
I actually do have an elevator pitch this week. When I drop the channel in there, I don't know if I've spoken about them before, but I'm pretty sure you already know them. Know who they are. It's Rob at the Comics Explained. Fantastic YouTube channel. If, like me, you want to read all the comic books, you just don't have enough fucking time to do so, give his channel a look. He talks about all the comic books that you can't be bothered reading. If, like me, you are not aligned to one particular comics house, he talks about them all. So give Rob a look. I guarantee you will not be bored by his videos.
Right, that's going to do it for today's episode. I think that we'll have another one out as fast as humanly possible. When we fail to deliver on that promise, you can annoy us at Gibberpish on Twitter, or you can contact us about the lack of episodes on gibberpishpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, I've been Colin Graham.
I've been Dom Anderson.
That sounded so bad. You came through so scuffed and electronic. I might leave that one in just to prove a point. This is why the episode's short, kids.
Go for it.
Did it again. And we've been talking Gibberpish. Or we've been trying to.
This is the gas leak episode.